Now this is a 3G phone. It uses Sprint's 3G network. So we'll go to the web browser here. Now you can also use the phone in landscape mode, except for in the home screen it doesn't go to landscape mode. But if you're web browsing or using any other apps, you can use it in landscape mode. Along with the physical keyboard, you also have a virtual keyboard if you want to use that for some reason, and then you can use that in landscape mode. But while we're in the web browser here, we'll stop this from loading. And we'll go to phonedog.com. So like I was saying, it is a 3G phone, uses Sprint's 3G network. And we're gonna load up phonedog.com here and kind of show you what the speeds are like. And then I'm gonna show you the speed test results that I got and show you the actual numbers, because it's the experience of web browsing with the phone is different from what you'd expect if you were to just look at the numbers, which you'll see in a minute. So we'll wait for this to load up, and it does kind of take a little bit longer. It also supports Wi-Fi, but I'm just on Sprint's 3G network right now. But you can see it loading up here, and it does ship with Android 2.2, so you have full flash support where you want it, or you can set it to be just on demand whenever you want to actually load a flash plugin. And I'll also show you the pinch to zoom once the page finishes loading here. It has a 600 megahertz processor, so we'll see how that responds to pinch to zoom. Okay, so we have phonedog.com loaded up here, and you can see the flash content on the side. And like I said, it has a 600 megahertz processor, but as you can see, it's pretty smooth, kind of choppy a little bit, but then the pinch to zoom, it's actually a lot smoother than I thought it would be. I mean, just considering the numbers, I was going to give it the benefit of the doubt if it was just a little bit choppy and laggy, but actually it's pretty smooth in zooming in and out. So it seems to do a pretty good job loading, and then we can zoom in and check out Evan's article about a dual-core iPhone 4S, and I'll load that. So, but pinch to zoom was pretty good. Now, we'll go over to the speed test app, and I'll show you the actual numbers, and then we'll also take a look at the quadrant standard results for the processor. But first, the 3G speed. So in actual real-world testing, when I was doing web browsing, I didn't notice that the 3G speeds were that bad. They were a little slower than what I expected, a little slower than what they should be, but they seemed pretty normal, and it kind of varied depending on where I was at. But then when I actually did the test, and I saw the results, you can see I've done quite a few tests here. The numbers are pretty poor. I had one good test where I got basically 1 meg down and then 160 up, which is, it was okay. But then, other than that, 800 almost, basically 760, 600, 41 down, 200. The numbers were pretty poor. And then you look at the upload numbers, 93, 72. So the numbers were very poor whenever I actually tested the network. However, when I was actually doing web browsing, just real-world testing, it didn't seem to me that it was that slow. I mean, I think PhoneDog loaded in about a minute, a little under a minute, which is, not great, but definitely not what you would think whenever you look at these numbers. So those are the results that I got, but then I can also tell you that in just testing it in real-world usage, it didn't really seem that slow to me whenever I was doing web browsing. Now we'll also take a look at the processor results. Now I mentioned that it has a 600 megahertz processor, so you can kind of expect some slowness, maybe some lagginess here. But I want to show you the results, the test results, because the numbers don't really reflect the true performance of the processor. Okay, so now the results are ready. We'll load them up, and drum roll, 400, which was about the norm. I got around 400, 500, which is extremely, extremely low, especially if you consider that on here it has the Nexus 1 on 2.2 as all the way at the top, and of course we know that there's a ton of devices that are faster than that. But even just not considering where it is in the chart, just the score itself, 400, is extremely low. And if you were to see that number you would think that the phone was just really slow and laggy, probably couldn't handle more than one application at a time, because that score is just terrible. But honestly, the performance of the device was great. I could have, multiple apps open, and it wasn't really a problem. Loading up maps loads it relatively quickly. It may be helpful to download maybe a task manager to kind of manage the apps that you have open, but honestly, multitasking was fine. There wasn't a whole lot of lag. I could be streaming music and then continue to have other applications open and not a lot of lag. There were times when it suffered from some, but don't let that be one of your concerns. I was definitely impressed with the performance of the processor. Now on the back here, we talked about the camera. But let me take off the battery cover and I'll show you the battery along with the micro SD card slot. The micro SD card slot is underneath the battery cover, but it's not underneath the battery, so you don't have to take out the battery, which is nice. I don't know why they didn't just add a little door here, but whatever. But it ships with a 2 GB card, and then it supports up to 32 GB. So that's nice. It seems becoming the norm. These mid-range phones shipping with a card, which is nice because it wasn't always like that. But here's the battery. It's a 1600 milliamp hour battery, which is actually pretty good, especially for a mid-range smartphone that doesn't have a whole lot going on. Not a large display, not a high resolution display. So 1600 milliamp hour battery is pretty good. And in testing, these are the numbers I got. On standby, the battery lasted about 1 day and 9 hours. So that's about a day and a half. Or if you do 12-hour days, then you're probably going to get through a full day. But that's on standby. With use and normal use with some heavy use here and there, it lasted about 21 hours. So that you'll definitely get a full day of use. You'll probably have to charge it every night, but definitely get a full day of use. So battery performance was decent. Now, obviously, it would be nice to be able to get through more than 1 day, but for an Android device, getting through a full day with normal use and some heavy use, that's good. So battery life was pretty good. So that is pretty much it, guys. It's the Samsung Replenish from Sprint, and overall it's a great phone. It's a great mid-range phone, but also I think the form factor, and it looks very business, very professional. If you are that kind of user, that type of user, but you can't afford some high-end device, or maybe you want to change and change from a BlackBerry, maybe go for something new, I think this device would be perfect. Now, obviously there are better devices out there, but in this category, in the mid-range device category, this is definitely a good one. And on Sprint, it's probably the best mid-range phone with a physical keyboard, unless you want to count the Evo Shift in that category, but definitely a solid phone. So that's it. Thanks guys for watching. If you have any other questions about the Replenish or any other phone that I've done a review on, you can follow me on Twitter. My screen name is It's My Job to Know. You can ask me a question and I'll try my best to answer it when I can. But remember to keep it on PhoneDog.com for more news, updates, and reviews. I'm going to post my written review of the Replenish. I'm also going to have some dogfights coming up. And then, of course, Aaron always has tons of reviews for you guys. So keep it on PhoneDog.com. But thanks, guys, for watching the review of the Replenish. I'm Sydney from PhoneDog.com, and I'll see you guys later.